Hi everyone! In this lesson, we'll be talking about the morality of human acts. First and foremost, we need to understand the essence of morality. Human acts are those of which a man is master, which he has the power of doing or not doing as he pleases. It is true that we are physically free to perform certain acts or to omit them, to do one thing or its contrary, to choose this act rather than some other. But are we also morally free in regard to all such acts? Is it right for me on all occasions to do whatever my inclination prompts me to do? My reason plainly answers no. It is evident even to a child that some actions are good in themselves and others bad in themselves. The good acts our reason commends and approves, this we call right. Evil acts, on the contrary, our reason disapproves and blames, this we call wrong. So the ideas of right and wrong, like those of truth and falsity, substance and accident, are simply primary ideas which are common to all men. Hence, they are trustworthy ideas, that is, the distinction existing in the mind between right and wrong corresponds to a distinction existing objectively in human act. The reason why our intellect approves certain acts, calls them morally good, and pronounces them worthy of praise, precisely as free acts, is because it perceives that they are rightly directed to their true end, suitable to and worthy of a rational agent, conformable to the exigencies of things, and therefore that they ought to be done by man. Man ought to do what is conformable to his rational nature and conducive to his perfection. Our intellect disapproves of other acts, calls them morally bad or evil, and pronounces them to be, inasmuch as they are free acts, deserving of blame, because it perceives they are directed away from their true end, are unbecoming and unsuitable to a rational agent, at variance with the exigencies of things, and therefore not to be done by man. Man ought not to do that which is unworthy of a rational being, and which, instead of perfecting, debases him. The radical notion conveyed then by the term good is suitable to an appetite or desire. Using the word then in its radical meaning, we say something is good for a being which that being desires, that is, which is the object of its appetites. And the good is the object of being's appetite because it tends in some manner to the perfection of the being. For the wise Creator has made all things such that they tend to what promotes the perfection. Hence, we call that a physical good which contributes to perfect a being physically. As for example, food for the animal nature. We call whatever benefits the intellect, that is truth and science, as an intellectual good. So too, that which perfects a free being as such, we call a moral good. So a free being perfects itself by drawing near to its ultimate end and its supreme good. When we talk about the determinants of morality, to know whether an individual human act is morally good, we must consider it with reference to these three things, which, because they determine the moral character of acts, are called the determinants of morality. And first is the object of the act. Second is the end or the purpose. And third, its circumstances. That the act may be morally good, all three determinants must be without a flaw according to the received axiom bonum ex integra causa malum ex cumquoque defecto, which means a thing to be good must be wholly so it is vitiated by any defect. The object of an act is the thing done. In reality, it is not distinct from the act itself, for we cannot act without doing something, and the something done is the object of the act, say of going, eating, praising, etc. So the act or object may be viewed as containing further specification, for example, going to church, praising God, eating meat. Now, an act thus specified may, when considered in itself, be good, bad, or indifferent. Thus, to praise God is good in itself, to blaspheme God is bad in itself, and to eat meat is in itself an indifferent act. But that an individual act may be good, its object, whether considered in itself or as further specified, must be free from all defect. It must be good, or at least indifferent. When we talk about the end or purpose is intended by the agent is the second determinant of an act's morality. The end here spoken of is not the end of the work, for that pertains to the object, but the end of the agent or the workman. No matter how good the object of an act may be, if the end intended is bad, the act is thereby bad or vitiated. Thus, to praise God is good in itself, but if in so acting the intention be to play the hypocrite, the act is morally bad. And this holds true whether the vicious end be the nearest, remote, or last end, whether it be actually or only virtually intended. On the other hand, a good end, though ever so elevated, cannot justify a bad act. In other words, we are never allowed to do evil that good may result therefrom. And when we talk about the circumstances of time, place, and persons have their part in determining the morality of an individual act. The moral character of an act may be so affected by attendant circumstances that an act good in itself may be evil when accompanied with certain circumstances. For instance, it is good to give drink to the thirsty, but if the thirsty man is morally weak and the drink is intoxicating, the act may be evil. So under the head of circumstances, certain effects of an act may be included. Not such effects are directly willed or intended, for this go with the second class of determinants. But there may be other effects which the agent foresees or can foresee so related to the act that though he does not intend them, yet he consents to their taking place, inasmuch as he wills the act which, to his knowledge, is the cause or at least the occasion of these effects. Thus, in ordering a city to be bombarded, for example, a general brings about, however reluctant, the death of many non-combatants. Such an act he is said to permit or to will indirectly. If besides the good effects directly intended in an act, evil effects are foreseen as likely to result, the act is not licit unless it fulfills the following conditions. Number one, that the evil effect be not directly intended. Number two, that the good effect intended be not produced by means of the evil effect, for we are never allowed to do evil that good may come therefrom. The general in the foregoing example does not kill the non-combatants in order that by their death he may destroy the combatants. Third, that the good directly intended exceed the evil effects. No one could licitly bombard a city for the sake of slight advantage. And fourth, the doer of the act be not under the obligation of averting the evil consequences in question. I hope you have understood well the determinants of human act so that we will be guided what determines an act to be morally good or morally evil, and that for an act to be good, it must be good in its object, in its purpose or end, and in its circumstances.